PowerPlayChess, brought to you in association with Kagi. I'd like to highlight the play of Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa in the Indian team at the Olympiad. Others in the team rightly stole the headlines, but Pragg played an absolutely vital role in the team. He played board 2 and he managed to block out a lot of the stronger players from opposing teams. He scored 6 out of 10, so not as great as Gukesh or Erigaisi, but as I said, a vital role. And indeed, his rating performance was something like 27-13. He didn't do badly with his 6 out of 10. So I'd like to show you actually his first round game against Mohamed Tissir, who is rated way below. So Tissir plays for Morocco. But still, I like this game very much. It's a very clever opening choice by Pragg. An open Sicilian. And it's the 4 knights variation or classical variation. Pragg goes for bishop g5. That's one of the most solid ways for white to play. And queen d2. I mean, this has a very good reputation for white looking to castle queenside. And indeed, castle's queenside is just the normal move here, played in thousands of games. But it's really interesting. Pragg selects knight takes c6. Now, 25 years ago, this move just wasn't really played, not in games by top players. I mean, if anyone ever played like this, you'd think, well, you would question their positional understanding, because normally it's a mistake in the Sicilian for white to take here, bringing that pawn closer to the centre. But if you feed this position into an engine, then it shows that, well, castles is the preferred move, but actually knight takes c6 comes in second place and is thought to be quite okay for white. But of course, it's very early stage. You can't talk in terms of an advantage at the moment. But I just think it's very interesting that this seemingly anti-positional move is engine approved. So castle's queenside. I mean, there are lots of ways for black to play this. You could play your queen out early, but well, anyway, bishop e7 played. It's reliable. And now the bishop is given up on f6. So if black could play this successfully, then of course that's the move you would want to play. And this bishop has a wonderful diagonal. But white can get away with taking on d6. Like this. And then knight a4. And that's a sound extra pawn. So black has to play g takes f6. So that rather compromises the pawn structure on the king side. And now bishop c4. So this is the idea. Yes, there's an open b file, or semi-open b file. But that bishop is just going to slot back on b3 and just closes off any play there. I think without that, then, I think white's position would be dubious. So here, lots of ways for black to play. I mean, for example, some players have gone bishop b7 and queen c7 and just castle queenside. But with the pawn on a6, it doesn't make a great impression. It's playable, but somehow it looks funny with this big hole here. You could play queen b6. It's not bad. Queen a5, also possible. d5, well, that's the move we would like to play, of course, but in this case, that is an invitation for white to crash through. And in this case, white really has an overwhelming attack. I mean, this is just too much. Beautiful position for all these pieces, by the way. But Tissir played in this position a remarkable move. I wouldn't have the guts to do this. Wow. Now white knows exactly where to attack. I think if you remain flexible in the middle, then it keeps white guessing. But castle's kingside. Whoa. Queen h6. Well, this kind of thing has been seen before with this structure. Because in fact, after this is the game continuation. Black is able to defend that pawn, and white is certainly not breaking through in that position. Not yet, at any rate. Still, it would leave me feeling very anxious. f4. Why not, indeed? And the thing is, that bishop hasn't dropped back to b3 yet, which very often it ends up there. But of course, it wants to drop back this way in order to attack on this diagonal. Queen g8 played. I mean, d5 is possible now, but yeah, really that's where the bishop wants to be. So queen g8. So more protection here, and perhaps this rook can be employed somewhere down the semi-open file. So rook g3 played. So that just stops any trouble. Of course, white would love it if black exchanged here, opening up the h file. Rook b8. Little bit of play. Well, with those split rooks, I know these are split as well, true, but somehow it's not very threatening. Queen h5. Well, the queen has kind of done its job there, but yeah, it's quite reasonable. I mean, rook g6 might come at some point, so better to just... Well, Pragg steps back. It keeps nice and active. Rook b4, and in any case, the bishop wants to come back to d3, not b3. And it's not clear exactly what the rook is doing here. c5, trying to get a bit of counterplay. a3, that just pushes the rook back. And rook f1. So the second rook comes into play. This could be very dangerous indeed. Rook g6. And rook f3. Queen g7. So black is shuffling up the board. I think the problem with this structure is it's not very flexible. You know, which of these pawns do you actually want to move? I mean, playing e5 would weaken those squares horribly. Playing f5, well, that's going to get taken. Playing d5, again, likewise, that can be taken. So it's just very difficult for black to find any meaningful counterplay here. Bishop b7 and rook g3. Rook g8. Okay, it's quite a nice lineup. King b1. As we're going to see, king b1 is a really useful move to play. It also just says to black, okay, so what are you doing here? a5, that's what black is doing. Well, if that's the best that black can do, then you realise that white is doing fine. f5. Hitting the rook. Rook takes g3. I mean, if the rook steps forwards... Let me see. That could be taken, I guess. And I wonder if e5 straight away is probably a good move. Yeah, that looks really, really strong. Opening up this. So rook g3, h takes g3. And you can see with the king on b1, queen g5 is no longer check. That's really important. So black is unable to exchange queens. Well, black cracks here and takes on f5. As I said before, actually black's pawn mass is really quite inflexible. And we're going to see that this has fatal consequences. And what happens if black kind of sits there? h6, for example. Now, white doesn't want to play the endgame. I think that will be a massive relief for black. So bishop c4, that's a weak pawn. And with the pawn on c5, it means but d5 isn't coming. So white desperately wants this pawn to advance or take here, because then those light squares are for the taking. So bishop c8. It's actually not so easy to crack black's position. As I said, you don't want to take this pawn. I think that would be such a relief for black. Not so easy to win that position. I mean, white is better, but not so simple actually. I mean, one could attempt it, but no. Better to keep the queens on. But what you could do is swing that knight round. That looks like a really nice square. Putting the knight here and just increasing the pressure on the e6 pawn. But that's all by the by, because instead black took on f5. So that leaves these light squares open and vulnerable. Pragg played it really well. Knight d5. This really vigorous move. So hitting that bishop, and black took. And then played rook e8. I mean, if in queen g6 is probably a bit better, it's still pretty horrible. For example, like this. That just locks the bishop in. And then rook here. Black's pieces are just horrible. King is completely safe here. And this rook starts to invade. And this should be winning for white. But instead, rook e8. Bishop f5, h6. And that is a killer pin. Black does not get up from that one. So queen f8 played. Now I don't know whether black resigned or whether he lost on time. In any case, it was game over at this point, because white wins with queen e3, hitting this one. After king g8, rook takes, and rook h4, and you come back to g4. So there's absolutely nothing to do. So that's why queen e2 was played, just to do a switch here with queen e3. And that's the end of that. Yeah, incidentally, if king g8, moving out of the way, and in this case bishop d7 wins. Rook moves, queen takes bishop. That's why queen f8 was played, to protect the rook. So that was a very smooth first round victory for Praggnanandhaa. And, well, he played very solidly the whole tournament, 6 out of 10. There were quite a few draws, but he played an absolutely vital role in the Indian team's victory. I should mention that he is number 12 in the world. He's not doing badly. And still only 19 years old, just a reminder. I mean, I think in the next few years we're going to see these Indian players sort of catch up and then overtake. I think it's going to be pretty fluid at the top between these players, but obviously a great future ahead of them. If you're not a subscriber, then do click that subscribe button and you get regular updates when there's a new video posted. Thanks for watching.